Good morning, majors. Okay, so in this video, we're going to be working on dividing polynomials. And so it's going to be something similar to what we did before when we were learning about our radicals and exponent unit, which was unit 8. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our notes. So I want you guys to look, hold on, let me get my pen. All right, I want you guys to look at this right here. So we're going to be dividing a monomial by a binomial. And then we're going to have to tell the degree of your answer. So remember, our binomial is something that has how many terms? One term. So this in itself is just one term. This in itself is one term. So let's look at this. So it says right here that we have 20a to the 4th degree, b to the 6th degree, divided by 4a to the 5th degree, and b to the 2nd degree. So when we look at this, we know, let's just break this apart. We know that 4 can go into 20 4 times. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 4 up here. All right. Now let's look at our other variables. Let's look at the variable that we have here. So we have a variable, and we know when we divide and we're dealing with exponents, we have to subtract. So when you always subtract from the top to the bottom. So if you were to subtract 4 from 5, that would give me a to the negative 1st degree. And then if you were to subtract 6 from 2, that would give us b to the 4th degree. The only problem is that we cannot have a negative exponent. So what did we do? If you guys remember from the last unit, what we have to do is we have to take the reciprocal of your negative exponent. So that means that we have to put it on the bottom. So anytime that you have a negative exponent, it would be rewritten such as 4a to the 1st degree and b to the 4th degree. You guys see how I did that? We had to take the reciprocal. So we had to take the negative and flip it and put it on the bottom. So your answer is going to be 4b to the 4th degree over a to the 1st degree. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not 4, that's 5. Let me change that. There you go. All right, so we're going to do the same thing here. Except this time, 25 can't go into 5, so we cannot divide it 5. However, we can reduce this fraction. So we're going to start with how many times does 5 go into 5? 5 goes into 5 one time. And how many times does 5 go into 25? It goes into 25 5 times. If you don't know, use your calculator. So we're going to start looking at our variables that have our degrees. So we have an x to the 6th over an x to the 8th. Well, obviously, if you subtract 6 from 8, that's going to give us a negative number. So I'm going to start by putting it on top. So that's going to be a x to the negative 2 degree. And then I have y. Remember, anytime there's a y, there's like an imaginary 1 that's right there. So really, we're saying that y to the 1st degree and y to the 5th degree, we have to subtract. So that means 1 minus 5 is also going to give me a negative number. So that's going to be y to the negative 4th degree. Now remember what I said with the last problem. Anytime we cannot have negative exponents or negative degrees on top when you're dividing, so that means that we have to take the reciprocal. So that means we're now going to change this. And so it's now going to be 1 over 5 x to the 2nd degree and y to the 4th degree, and that is your answer. So moving along here, it says dividing polynomials by monomials. So we're going to find the quotient of 9x to the 3rd degree minus 6x to the 2nd degree over 3. So what we do when we're doing polynomials, right, by monomials, what we're going to do is we're going to separate them into individual fractions. It makes it so much easier. So as you can see down here, we took the 9x to the 3rd degree and we divided it by 3. Put the subtraction sign here, and then we did 6x to the 2nd degree, and then we put it over 3. So then we're going to simplify our fractions, and this is what our fractions look like. You guys see all of this right here. So we're just going to go ahead and skip along here. Sorry, I'm trying to move along pretty fast. So for this page right here, it's the same thing because we have two terms here and it's divided by one number, quotient. I'm not quotient, I'm sorry. Number. We're going to break it apart. So it's going to look like this. So it's going to look like 4x divided by 2 plus 10 divided by 2. So let's break this down. So how many times does 2 go into 4? 2 goes into 4 2 times. So 2x. How many times does 2 go into 5? Remember to bring down your sign. Plus 2 goes into 5. 2 goes into 10 5 times. And this is your answer right here. All right. So let's go on to B. So B is going to be a little bit different because now we're going to have to start subtracting our degrees, right? But we're going to break this problem down. So we're going to write it as such. So we're going to say 21x to the third degree divided by 7x minus, don't forget your minus sign or your plus sign, whatever you have there, minus 35x to the second degree divided by 7x. So what do we do here? So now we divide. If you don't know, please use your calculator. 7 goes into 21 how many times? 3 times. So now we're going to subtract our degrees. So this is x to the third degree minus x, which is also the same thing as saying x to the first degree. So 3 minus 1 gives you x to the second degree minus, how many times does 7 go into 35? 7 goes into 35 5 times. Then we have our degrees. We have to subtract our degrees. So x to the second degree minus x to the first degree is the same thing as saying x. And here you go. You have your answer. Okay? So now we're moving on to C. We're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to break these up until 3. Now remember, look at here. We have a minus and a plus sign. Please make sure that you're paying attention to your sign. So we're going to start by saying that 22x to the 7th degree over 2x minus 18x to the 4th degree over 2x plus 2x over 2x. So I'm going to write the answer right down here. And how many times does 2 go into 22? We're going to start there, and 2 goes into 22 11 times. Now we're going to subtract our exponents. So we have x to the 7th degree, and then there's x. So this is x to the first power. So we're just going to subtract. So it's going to be x to the 6th power. Then we're going to subtract that. So now we have, how many times does 2 go into 18? 2 goes into 18 9 times. And then we're going to subtract our exponents. So remember, x is the same thing as saying like a 1, an imaginary 1. So 4 minus 1 is going to give you what? 3. Then you have, how many times does 2 go into 2? 2 goes into 2 1 time. If you were to subtract your exponents, it's not going to give you anything. It's going to give you 0. So that is your answer right there. All right, we're going to do the same thing again here, where we have 6x to the 4th degree. I don't know what I was doing. I was getting a little happy. I was going to say 45. So 6x to the 4th degree and y to the 5th degree over 3x y to the 2nd degree minus 18x to the 6th degree y to the 7th degree over 3x y to the 2nd degree minus 9x y to the 2nd degree over 3x y to the 2nd degree. Guess what, you guys? We get to have a lot of fun with this, and we get to subtract this all over again. So 3 goes into 6. I'm sorry, divide. First we're going to divide, then subtract. So 3 goes into 6. How many times? It goes in there 2 times. Now we get to subtract because we're going to be dealing with our degrees. So we have x with x to the 4th degree and x here, which remember it's an imaginary one. I'm not going to draw it now. But 4 minus 1 is going to give you x to the 3rd. And then y, so we're going to subtract our y. So 5 minus 2 is going to give us y to the 3rd degree. Minus, how many times does 3 go into 18? And 3 goes into 18 6 times. We're going to subtract our exponents. So 6 minus 1 is going to give me x to the 5th. And then we're going to subtract our y exponents or degrees. So then y to the 7th minus y to the 2nd is going to give me y to the 5th. And then we're going to divide again. So how many times does 3 go into 9? And 3 goes into 9 3 times. And then if I subtract 1 from 1, that gives me 0. If I subtract 2 from 2, that gives me 0. So I put nothing there. And here is my answer. Very simple. So now we're going to go on to the last one here. So this looks a little bit different, but it's the same thing as this, and we're going to set it up as such. So we're going to say 18 x to the 4th degree over 6x plus 30 x to the 2nd degree over 6x and minus 36x over 6x. All right. So let's go ahead and do this work. So 6 goes into 18 how many times? 3 times. And if you subtract your exponents, 4 minus 1, that gives me x to the 3rd degree, plus 6 goes into 30 5 times. And if you subtract your degrees or exponents, it's going to give me x minus 6 goes into 36 6 times. And my both of my exponents leave me with 0. So here is your answer. Okay, so now that you finish these notes, this right here is the same thing that we did on the previous page. And I will, you know what, I'll do number 3 for you guys. I'll do number 3. So for this one, I'll set it up. 14x to the 3rd degree, y divided by 7y minus 28x to the 4th degree, y to the 2nd degree over 7y. So 7 goes into 14 2 times. There's no x here to subtract from. So that's just going to be x to the 3rd degree. Our y's are going to cancel out because it's the same thing as having an imaginary 1 here. So 1 minus 1 gives me 0. Minus, how many times does 7 go into 28? And it goes into 28 4 times. Again, we don't have any x's here, so that means we're going to just bring down our x to the 4th degree. And we have a 2 here, a y to the 2nd degree, and just a y. So 2 minus 1 is going to give me a y, and then it's going to be my answer. I think these problems right here are pretty straightforward. I can set them up for you though, so that way you guys know what to do. Let me write these out for you. And then this one is 36x to the 2nd degree minus 3x and plus 12x negative 3x plus 9. Oop, that's not a 9x. Just 9 over a negative 3x. Okay. Also, when you have an x at the bottom like this, your x is going to stay at the bottom. And I can go over that later. All right. So I set those up for you. And then this last page right here is just going to be practice problems. So what I'm going to have you guys do for the practice problems is I'm going to have you guys, I'm going to circle the ones that I want you guys to do in red. So you guys have some time doing practice problems. So we'll do 10. We'll do 8. We can do 9. We can do 4. We can do 3. We can do 2. Remember, some of these you are going to have to flip your, you're going to have to take the reciprocal of some of these because you're going to be getting negative degrees. And remember, you cannot have negative degrees. So it just doesn't work. And then we'll do 6. All right. So you have 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 10. And those are the practice problems for you to do. And then guess what? After that, we are done.